It's great to have you here, Victoria, and I'm so curious about your approach to diet and healthy lifestyle. Can you tell me more about you and your approach?
Oh, absolutely. I had trouble with food. My whole childhood and adolescence, I was overweight, and my parents were both in the weight loss industry. My father was a physician, and my mother worked in weight loss centers. So I was a fat kid, bad for business, and it was a really problematic and difficult part of my life. They were always putting me on diets. And as I got older, I put myself on the diets, and it just was, it was sad. And so I read all about nutrition and health, and I learned a lot, but I couldn't apply what I knew. So a couple of things had to happen for me, which they did in my very early 30s. One was that I needed to work on my inner self. I needed to come to a way to discover how not to eat for a fix. And I did that through spiritual practices and disciplines. And once I was to the point where I was free from having to hurt myself with food, then I was able to choose the way I wanted to eat. And for me, that was a completely plant-based diet. I was into yoga, and I know you're talking to me from India today, so that's pretty special. And this whole idea of ahimsa and harmlessness and not killing or hurting somebody else so that I could eat really spoke to me. And once I put that into my life, all the health and the happiness fell into my life, and it's been great for 30 years.
Wow, that's amazing, and it reminds me my own difficult story from my childhood because I was also a child that was all the time overfed by my parents and especially my grandparents because my family had some emotional difficulties all the time. So I was eating to help myself not to feel too much emotions. So I had a lot of chocolates and different things, and it became a problem when I was a teenager. So I remember it from my own case. It was very difficult, and I looked for also for the perfect diet for me.
I think a lot of people have problems with food simply because we happen to be living in a time when most people have enough food. I mean, the food problem throughout history has been not enough. And now, for many of us, we're fortunate enough to have the problem of availability of too much. So it seems that wherever one is in history, there's going to be something to deal with.
Yes, and the problem to choose the right food. You go to the shop, supermarket, or anywhere else, and you have so many things that it's difficult to decide what is good for you.
It is true. And I think that those of us who grew up in this era, that we've had all these packaged foods, and they tend to be addictive. Somebody like me, I think I would have had food problems no matter what. That's just what I was turning to live my life. But anybody is going to have an addictive response to processed packaged foods that are full of fat and salt and sugar, and natural foods that grow up out of the ground. We're talking the fruits, the vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts and seeds. These are the simple, basic foods that, when they form the foundation of the diet, seem to provide such a nutritional stability that it helps in not overeating.
All right, and tell me, what is your diet plan for a day? Starting from
Well,
breakfast, what do you eat?
yeah, what's so beautiful about life today is that I don't have to have a diet plan, which is pretty wonderful.
Great.
I eat seasonally. In the summer, I eat usually a smoothie in the morning with banana and berries and almond milk. and some supplementary foods like flaxseed and a little maca. That's a superfood from Peru, and maybe some vegan protein powder, and just make a really almost like a milkshake in a glass. And sometimes I'll throw some greens in there and make a green smoothie. And for lunch, I'll have a great big salad with beans and maybe some steamed broccoli. And for dinner, I'll do some sort of cooked vegan entree and another salad and side vegetables. And sometime during the day, I get a green juice. My favorite is green lemonade, which is apple, kale, romaine or celery, and a lemon. And if you closed your eyes and didn't see that it was green, you'd think you were just having lemonade. It's really good. But in the colder seasons, I really, really need the warmth. So for breakfast, I'll have oatmeal very often. My wonderful hot chai tea with some soy milk. And lunch, I do something in the winter that I call beans and greens, where I'll saute onions and garlic, and then I'll put in some garbanzos or some red beans, and lots of greens, kale or arugula or some kind of green, and maybe have some gluten-free bread with that. It's just very hearty and very satisfying. And dinner is the same, and the juice happens all year.
All right, great. And actually, I was wondering, because I'm also almost a vegan, sometimes I eat a little bit of fish and prawns in some seasons, not always, but most of the year I'm vegan. And I was wondering, what is for you a good source of energy? Because I see that, for example, when I'm traveling, I sometimes feel quite tired, and I was looking for a good source of energy that would yes, make me stronger.
Well, traveling is very tiring, and it's actually the way that we travel these days by air. It's not natural to the human body. Some people can deal with it more easily. And some of us, in Ayurveda, it's said that the Vata body type, which happens to be mine, those people should never leave home because we have so much trouble traveling. And like you, I travel quite a bit. So I don't look so much to a particular food to energize me or wake me up, although certainly I love my tea. But I think that it's more of an energetic lifestyle, just some little tips and tricks. For example, when I plan my flights, I always, if it's a short flight and you can do this, I just make sure that it's not too early in the morning or that I won't get in too late at night. I also try to figure out a way to get into that nice lounge at the airport, whatever it is, so that I can take care of myself so that I don't get really, really tired. And then I find that just with the food that I eat, and certainly lots of greens, there's just nothing that greens can't do. I always tell the people I work with, you want your plate to look like a Christmas tree, mostly green with splashes of other bright colors.
And another thing that I think is an issue of many of my readers of my blog also is about sugar craze. So what are your tricks?
Sugar is tough. Sugar is one of these addictive substances. But what's interesting is it's not just sugar. Very few people will suck on sugar cubes or cough drops. What we tend to do is go for sugar and fat together, so ice cream, cookies, that kind of thing, or sugar, or also fat with salt tends to be addictive for some people. So I think with sugar, it's a commitment, a day at a time, really, for many people to just not go there. That what you're going to have for after the meal, for a little bit of sweetness or pleasure to end that meal, is fresh fruit or actually some nuts. We have a phrase from soup to nuts, but very few people end a meal that way. But it's actually very nice because the nuts are rich, and even though they're not sweet, they taste like an ending food. And then also very dark chocolate. If you get chocolate that is more than 75% cocoa or cacao, as the raw people like to say, there's very, very little sugar in that, and yet it does have this wonderful, sweet richness that many people can handle, even if they would, with maybe a milk chocolate bar or something sweeter, they might eat the whole thing. But with the really dark chocolate bar, just a couple of squares are satisfying. Another thing that I like in the way of sweets are raw desserts. As I say, I need my warm food in the winter, but I do love the desserts that a lot of the raw people have come up with because they're sweetened with real food. Now, somebody who's a real sweet addict would have a hard time with even a dessert sweetened with dates, just because that sweet flavor is such a trigger for them. But for most people, if you stay away from the refined white sugar, you do just fine. So you can still have some beautiful desserts like a chocolate mousse that's made from dates and walnuts and, I'm sorry, I was giving you a different recipe. The mousse is dates and avocado. You can do a little chocolate brownie that's walnuts and dates. And it's really quite fun and quite simple. There's a book called Raw Food Made Easy for 1 or 2 people, where I get a lot of my recipes for those.
Wow, great. Yeah, I think that's there are many possibilities, many variety of foods that people can still enjoy when they would like to have something sweet. And I can also say from my experience that vegan diet is great for keeping your slim figure.
Oh, absolutely. It's the best because you actually get to eat food. You get to eat enough. You get to eat a quantity. I remember when I was on diets and eating a traditional diet and then trying to cut back in order to lose weight. And the piece of meat would be so tiny. And, I could have an ounce of cheese. Well, I didn't want an ounce of cheese. I wanted a chunk of cheese. And now with the vegan food, I really get to eat until I'm satisfied. And I don't even think about it. Very, very seldom does it ever even come up. And it does on occasion. I absolutely know that I am a person who has the potential for overeating. There's no question about that. But 99% of the time, it doesn't even come up. And even when it does, I don't have to act on it.
Yes, and I also love to eat, and I think that plant-based diet is the best because you can eat as much as you want and you still keep slim. So
yeah.
this is wonderful.
Right.
Thank you for a great interview. Tell me, where do our listeners can find more about you?
Oh, thank you. They can go to mainstreetvegan.net. That's mainstreetvegan.net, Main Street Vegan. And there we have information about my latest book, which is Main Street Vegan, about Main Street Vegan Academy, this very exciting training program that I have here in New York City to train and certify vegan lifestyle coaches. It's a 6-day intensive that is so much fun and so inspiring, and people have taken that and gone out into the world and established very successful vegan lifestyle coaching practices. Some of them are doing corporate work with wellness and nutrition. Somebody else started a vegan cowboy boot company, so that's really, really exciting. We're also having our first Main Street Vegan cruise in January of 2015. It's very reasonably priced, 7 days sailing out of New York City, a lot of fun. Other speakers, in addition to myself, will be Dr. Will Tuttle of the World Peace Diet, Michael Greger, who's a medical doctor who has nutritionfacts.org, a very wonderful website with minute-long videos about health and nutrition from the scientific literature. Pastry chef Fran Costigan, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So all that is on the site. We're revamping the blog, so starting in January, the blog will be from different Main Street Vegan Academy graduates, so you'll get all sorts of different ideas on the vegan life. So that's where you find me. I'm also on Twitter at Victoria_Moran and on YouTube at Victoria Moran NYC.
Great. Thank you very much for the interview again, and I will definitely look at your website, and also I will be happy to read your book. And have a great day, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for including me in your exciting work. I look at your life and all your travel and think, oh my goodness, this woman has manifested the life of her dreams.
Thank you.